Have you ever felt like your own family treated you as a stain, something to be hidden away? I, Emily Carter, 35 years old, have lived with that feeling for half my life. I never expected a seemingly simple phone call on a late afternoon at the office would spark a Thanksgiving night that changed everything. The phone buzzed just as I was reviewing a newly signed contract with a major Denver hospital. The figures before me, over $15 million for an HVAC services package, were enough to stun anyone in the industry. But when my sister Lauren's name flashed on the screen, my heart sank with a familiar reflex. I picked up, hearing her voice, still sweet, but always laced with a hint of frostiness. Can you come over this Thursday? I want the whole family together. Oh, and some of my colleagues will be there too. I paused for a few seconds. I knew what that meant. Lauren never invited me to dinner out of pure family affection. Her parties at her lavish home were always a performance, for friends, colleagues, for herself. I was just a supporting character, sometimes a prop to showcase her humble beginnings she'd risen above. Sure, I replied slowly. What time do you want me there? Around 1 in the afternoon, but... Her voice lowered. About your job. If anyone asks, can you say you're a climate consultant? It sounds more professional. These people, they're from Harrison and Associates, the law firm, international stuff, very prestigious. I pressed my lips together. Climate consultant. A fancy term to dodge the truth that I'm an HVAC engineer who built a company with my own hands and mind. I kept my voice steady. You want me to lie? No, not exactly. You do consulting, don't you? Building climate systems, big projects. I just want everything to look perfect. You get it. My mind flashed to past moments. A cousin's wedding where Lauren told me not to wear my work overalls. Mom's birthday where she suggested I not talk too much about fixing air ducts. The class reunion where she introduced me to her friends with a curt, "She's in tech." I took a deep breath. Each time, I'd swallowed my pride, not because I lacked confidence, but because I believed keeping the peace was better for both of us. Yet the scratches on my heart grew deeper. Fine, I said after a long pause. Climate consultant, if that's what you want. On the other end, Lauren sighed in relief, then quickly shifted to a cheerful tone. Thanks, Em. Oh, and if you can, wear that navy dress you wore to Janet's wedding. It's very appropriate. The call ended. I stared at the contract before me, the multi-million-dollar figures blurring. In Lauren's eyes, I was just the AC repair sister, nothing more. Late November in Denver brought scattered snow. I stood by the glass window on the 12th floor of Carter Climate Systems headquarters, watching employees head home under the glow of streetlights. Each of them, over 200 people, was living proof of what I'd built. Yet to Lauren, it meant nothing. That evening, back at my suburban apartment, I opened the old wooden box Dad left behind. Inside was a photo of him in his work overalls, grinning beside a small van marked Carter Plumbing and Heating. He'd once said, "Never be ashamed of working with your hands, Emily. Labor is honor." Yet now, I was hiding my career to spare my sister embarrassment. That night, I couldn't sleep. I thought of the past 7 years, the grueling hours, the major contracts, the near accidents on job sites. I'd done it all to keep a promise to Dad, to take care of Lauren, to help her become a lawyer. And this was her gratitude, treating me like a burden to conceal. On the day I left for New York, I wrapped up work for 3 days. My assistant Sarah asked with concern, "Are you sure you want to go? You've been working yourself to the bone." I gave a faint smile. It's Thanksgiving, she's family after all. The 4.5-hour flight from Denver to JFK felt endless. When the plane landed, New York's foggy sky and chilly breeze slipped through my coat. Lauren's words echoed in my mind. Climate consultant. I wondered when she'd ever see my true worth, or if I'd forever be the AC repair sister in her eyes. As the taxi rolled toward Westchester, a heavy premonition settled over me. Lauren's house, with its white columns and expensive tiled roof, was like a grand stage, and this time I knew I wasn't just a spectator. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and told myself, "Go, Emily. Let the truth speak. Maybe it's time things changed." I'm sharing this story not to complain, But because I know many others have been in my shoes, looked down on by family for their job, their life choices, have you ever had to hide who you are to please loved ones? If you have, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. Sometimes, your experience can be a comfort and strength to others. And stay tuned, because in the next chapter, I'll tell you exactly what happened when I stepped into Lauren's house, where all the masks began to crack. Have you ever walked into a house where every detail, from the paintings on the walls to the vase on the table, felt not lived in, but staged? That's how I felt walking through the glossy white doors of Lauren's mansion that Thanksgiving noon. I arrived 2 hours early to help prepare. As soon as I set my bag down, Lauren's voice greeted me instead of a hello. "You're wearing jeans?" I smiled, holding up the garment bag. "I brought the dress. Figured I'd wear something comfy to help with cooking." Lauren glanced at me, her eyes a mix of impatience and embarrassment. She slammed the fridge shut and whispered, "Then change now. Some people are coming early. I don't want them to get the wrong idea." I swallowed the lump in my throat, not arguing. I walked into the living room, where the chandelier's golden light illuminated lavish decor. But there was a glaring absence on the fireplace mantel. The photo from my trade school graduation, the one Dad had cherished. It was gone. In that moment, I realized Lauren had erased every trace of the life she deemed lesser. I changed into the navy dress in the upstairs bathroom. It hugged my frame, just as Lauren wanted. But in the mirror, I didn't see myself. I saw a polished facade, a prop in Lauren's success story play. As I descended, laughter echoed from the living room. Lauren's colleagues had arrived, young, impeccably dressed people lounging on leather sofas, as if this were a networking event, not a family dinner. Lauren appeared like the star of the show, her voice louder than usual, her laugh practiced. She introduced me to each guest. "This is my sister Emily. She works in the technical sector." Technical sector! I forced a smile. The guests nodded, assuming I was a coder or tech specialist. I wanted to correct her, but Lauren's sharp warning glance silenced me. During the cocktail hour, I was relegated to a corner, like a misplaced decoration. A young lawyer named Derek approached, martini in hand. "So you're in tech? What field?" Before I could answer, Lauren swooped in, her smile tight with control. "Oh, she just does HVAC stuff, fixing air conditioners." Her words landed like a thin blade, slicing away Derek's respect. He gave a faint chuckle and stepped back. "Oh, well, that's necessary, I guess. Someone's got to do it." Humiliation burned my cheeks, Lauren added, her voice syrupy. "She likes to call her little job a company. It's cute." They both laughed, leaving me standing there like a fool. My mind roared with memories of sweating on job sites, sleepless nights, multi-million-dollar contracts, all reduced to fixing air conditioners. Then he appeared. Robert Harrison, salt and pepper hair, tall, with eyes that seemed to pierce the room. When Lauren introduced me, he didn't offer a perfunctory handshake. He furrowed his brow, repeating my name. "Emily? Carter? That sounds familiar. Turner? No, Carter Climate Systems, right?" The room froze, my heart pounded, and Lauren paled. "No, just a coincidence," she stammered, forcing a laugh. "She just does small repair stuff, Robert. Let me get you a drink." But Robert's eyes stayed on me, skeptical, as if he'd just uncovered a key piece in the game Lauren was trying to hide. In that moment, I knew her perfect performance was starting to crack. I'm sharing this not for pity, but because I believe many have been diminished in their own homes. Have you ever had someone deny your true worth to prop up their image? If this story resonates, comment why. If not, feel free to say N. Have you ever carried a promise so heavy it became a chain, dragging you through blood and sweat with no way back? I used to think promises were the most sacred thing. But that Thanksgiving night, standing in Lauren's kitchen, I began to wonder, had I misunderstood Dad's words for 7 years? The spacious kitchen smelled of roasted turkey and herbs, but to me, it felt like a polished prison. Lauren had tucked me away here, saying, "You should stay in the kitchen so guests don't ask too many questions." I sat on a high stool by the counter, hands clasped tightly, ears catching the fake laughter from the living room. Under the golden light, my mind drifted back 7 years to the hospital room where Dad, Thomas Carter, lay on crisp white sheets. He was skin and bones, his eyes sunken but still bright when he saw me. I held his frail hand as he whispered, "Emily, take care of your sister. She's smart but fragile. She needs a strong shoulder to lean on, promise me." I bowed my head, tears falling onto the bedsheet. "I promise, Dad, I won't let Lauren fall." Those were his last words to me. Days later, he was gone forever. After the funeral, I saw Lauren crumbling under student loans and New York's high cost of living. She'd just started her first year at Columbia Law, with sky-high rent, stacks of books, and crushing pressure. And me? I was just an HVAC engineer with a fledgling company and a handful of employees. I knew if Lauren drowned in debt, Dad's dream would die. So that night, I made a life-altering choice. I sold my only car, cashed out my meager retirement savings, and set up an anonymous education fund under the name Whitman Trust. Every month, $3,500 left my account, quietly covering Lauren's tuition. She never knew. She thought it was an old investment of Dad's or some mystery scholarship. I let her believe it. To me, keeping Dad's promise mattered more than recognition. But that promise came at a cost. To sustain it, I took on the toughest contracts, installing HVAC systems in toxic chemical plants, repairing units on slippery rooftops in winter, working 18-hour days. Some nights, I came home with hands bleeding from frostbite, yet still smiled as I signed the transfer for the fund. My company grew from a small shop to one with dozens, then hundreds of employees. I reinvested every profit, forgoing a big house or fancy car. While friends posted Hawaii vacation photos, I buried myself in dust and blueprints. All for one thing, keeping Dad's promise. Aunt Margaret was the only one who knew the truth. She once watched me sign a check for the fund, then sighed. "Emily, you're sacrificing too much. Taking care doesn't mean letting her walk all over you." I gave a weak smile. "I can handle it. As long as Lauren succeeds, Dad's smiling somewhere." She shook her head, her eyes full of pity and frustration. Now, sitting in Lauren's lavish kitchen, I heard her radiant laughter outside, playing the perfect hostess to her colleagues. But that same woman had lived off my sweat and blood for 7 years, and now she wanted to hide me like a blemish. I looked at my calloused hands, a lump rising in my chest. All those years of sacrifice, only to be met with her shame? Two voices clashed in my mind. One was Dad's, gentle but commanding. "Take care of your sister." The other was mine, furious. "Enough, Emily, enough." My hands trembled. I'd been patient my whole life, but my limit had been reached. The laughter from the living room paused. Then Robert Harrison's warm voice cut through. I couldn't make out the words, but a gut feeling told me the charade out there was unraveling. I stood, walked to the kitchen door, and placed my hand on the wood. Dad's image in that hospital bed flashed before me. His final gentle smile, the promise I thought was my destiny. But in that moment, I understood. Caring doesn't mean blind sacrifice. Some promises are kept differently, through truth, boundaries, and making others face consequences. I closed my eyes, took a long breath. When I opened them, everything was clear. I knew what I had to do. I'm telling you this because I believe many of us carry promises to parents, family, ourselves that exhaust us without knowing when to stop. Are you holding on to a promise that's draining you? Because in that kitchen, I decided it was time to end it. If you want to hear more stories like mine and relate to these struggles, check out my previous videos on this channel. Some dinners seem ordinary, but turn into public trials, where every word and glance becomes an irreversible verdict. That Thanksgiving dinner was my trial, and Lauren's too. The long table was draped in white linen, candlelight flickering on crystal wine glasses. I sat at the far end, near the kitchen door, exactly where Lauren placed me. Far enough to stay out of the main conversation, close enough to help when needed. The chatter buzzed about mergers, international lawsuits, and $100 million deals. I stayed silent, cutting my turkey, trying to swallow the bitterness. Then Robert Harrison's warm voice cut through the lively noise. "Carter Climate Systems. Emily Carter. I knew I wasn't mistaken. That's the company handling HVAC for the Hartley building, right?" The room fell silent. I felt every eye turn to me. I set down my knife and fork, meeting Robert's gaze. "Yes, that's my company." A fork clattered. Lauren's face went ashen. her voice trembling. No, that's not possible. She just fixes air conditioners, a small shop, odd jobs. Robert raised an eyebrow, leaning back. If that's odd jobs, then odd jobs bring in 40 million in revenue a year. Carter Climate Systems is the largest independent contractor in the state. I remember because we tried multiple times to meet with the CEO and failed. The air thickened, my heart pounded, but my voice stayed calm. That's right, I'm the CEO. Lauren shot up, her face flushed. Stop it. Don't make things up at this table. Everyone, don't believe her. She just installs ducts, tightens screws. She's just a lowly AC repairwoman. Her words echoed, tearing through the polished veneer she'd built. I scanned the table. Some of Lauren's colleagues exchanged glances. Some frowned in shock, others reached for their phones, likely to Google my company. I didn't shout. I didn't need to. I quietly opened my purse and pulled out 2 envelopes. Placing them on the table, I spoke clearly, each word like a hammer. Here are 2 things Lauren never wanted anyone to know. I slid the first envelope toward her. Whitman Trust, Educational Fund. For 7 years, your law school tuition, rent, exam fees, all paid by this fund. I set it up. You thought it was an anonymous scholarship? No, it was me keeping my promise to Dad. Lauren swayed, her trembling hands opening the envelope, eyes scanning bank statements and signatures. Undeniable proof. No, it can't be, she mumbled, her voice breaking, frail as ash. I pulled the second envelope to myself and looked at Robert. And this is official. The $5 million annual HVAC maintenance contract between Carter Climate Systems and Harrison and Associates. Effective today, I'm invoking the termination clause for conflict of interest. I can't continue working with a firm whose lawyer publicly humiliates a vendor in front of clients. Robert froze, his sharp eyes flashing with surprise and respect. He nodded, his voice firm. That contract is binding, and the reason is entirely valid. The table erupted in chaos. Whispers surged. She's really the CEO? 40 million in revenue? Lauren lived off her sister's money for 7 years? Lauren seemed to lose gravity, collapsing into her chair, her face ghostly white. I saw in her eyes not just fear, but a shattering, the collapse of the perfect image she'd built for years. I stood, slipping my coat over my shoulders. Every eye followed me, waiting for my final words. I looked straight at Lauren. You're ashamed I fix air conditioners, but you're not ashamed to live off the money I earned with these calloused hands. Today the truth is out. You can keep denying it, but it won't change reality. I'm done being hidden. No one spoke. The room was silent, save for the ticking of the wall clock, resounding like a gavel. I walked away from the table toward the front door. The heavy wooden door closed behind me, leaving behind stunned stares, sharp gasps, and the image of a crumbling Lauren Carter in front of her colleagues. I share this moment not to gloat, but because I know many have been belittled, hidden, despite their sacrifices. At some point, the truth must be spoken, even if it hurts someone. Have you ever had a moment where someone who disrespected you begged for forgiveness, but instead of triumph, you felt only a cold void in your heart? I lived that moment in Lauren's gleaming house. After Robert Harrison confirmed my company's stature, after the envelopes exposed everything, the room felt drained of air. Lauren slumped in her chair, hands shaking as she clutched the papers. Her face was pale, her thick makeup unable to hide the cracks spreading like shattered glass. Emily, I'm sorry. Her voice was hoarse, stripped of the sharp lawyer's edge. Please don't do this. Don't cancel the contract. Don't tell them. I'll lose everything. Her eyes, desperate, met mine. I'd once dreamed of seeing that regret, but now it brought no joy. Instead, I felt only the weight of 7 years' exhaustion. I quietly opened my bag, pulling out another thick document in a cream-colored envelope. I placed it before Lauren, my voice even. This is a notice of termination, legally notarized, ending all payments from the Whitman Trust as of today. The remaining tuition, about $50,000, you'll have to handle yourself. Lauren's eyes widened, tears spilling over. You can't. I won't graduate on time. My whole career. I cut her off, firm. Love doesn't come with shame. You chose prestige over family, hid me instead of being proud. Now stand on your own, Lauren. Robert Harrison cleared his throat. He skimmed the document, then set it down. Legally, this is airtight, he said, his gaze piercing Lauren. And Emily has every right to terminate our contract. I suggest you prepare for the consequences, not just at home, but in your career. A wave of murmurs swept the table. Some shook their heads in disapproval. Others looked at Lauren like a cautionary tale. Lauren sobbed, collapsing onto the table, clutching my sleeve. I was wrong, Emily. I was so stupid, but please don't abandon me. You promised Dad you'd take care of me. Her words stabbed deep. I heard Dad's voice again. Take care of your sister. I'd kept that promise beyond my limits. But now I understood. Caring doesn't mean enduring torment and contempt. I gently pulled my hand from her grip. Dad wanted me to protect you, yes, but he never wanted me to be your doormat. Today I honor both, the promise and my self-respect. The air was so thick a loud breath could have startled everyone. I stood, put on my coat, and scanned the room. Every eye followed me, curious, stunned, even admiring. I spoke slowly, each word deliberate. I've been silent too long. For 7 years I traded my health, time, and youth to fuel a career that its beneficiary despised me for. Today I'm done. Not just with the contract, not just the fund, but with a relationship warped by contempt. Lauren, if you want to prove your worth, do it without trampling me. Lauren cried out behind me, her voice breaking. I'll lose everything. You can't leave me like this. I didn't turn back. No, you haven't lost everything. You have a chance, but it's a chance to stand on your own. I can't give you that. Robert Harrison nodded as I passed. Ms. Carter, he said softly, sometimes an ending is the only way to a new beginning. I believe you know that better than anyone. I gave a slight nod and walked out. Outside, the November night wind stung my face. Snow fell lightly, settling on my hair and coat. But in my heart, I felt an unfamiliar lightness, lighter than I'd felt in 7 years. I stood on Lauren's porch, breathing the icy air. For the first time, I felt free. I share this not to boast a victory, but to remind anyone carrying an invisible burden. Sometimes, cutting ties isn't betrayal, it's liberation. Because true love never comes with humiliation. Have you ever watched someone you love fall, collapse, and told yourself you've done all you could, with nothing left to give? Yet your heart refuses to turn away completely? I faced that dilemma with Lauren, the sister I nurtured with all my strength, but who hurt me the most. After that fateful Thanksgiving, word spread fast. Within days, Lauren was encouraged to resign from Harrison and Associates. In the cutthroat world of law, a stain on ethics or respect for colleagues can bury a career. Lauren's reputation crumbled, and invitations to collaborate dried up. Aunt Margaret told me Lauren had to leave her lavish Westchester apartment, moving to a cramped studio in Newark, New Jersey. The sleek BMW was returned to the leasing company, replaced by cold subway rides into the city. The glamorous lawyer image vanished, leaving a haggard woman grappling with bills and $50,000 in unpaid tuition. To many, it was a deserved price, but for me, each update brought no satisfaction. I only heard Dad's voice echoing, "Take care of your sister." While Lauren struggled, my life in Denver soared. Carter Climate Systems landed a major contract with a federal hospital network, worth over $20 million. I stood in a grand boardroom, watching my team celebrate, feeling my own growth. Yet amid the cheers and congratulations, I felt an unnameable void. That night, back at my apartment, I opened Dad's old wooden box. The photo of him hugging Lauren and me as kids appeared, his kind smile bringing tears to my eyes. I whispered, "Dad, I cut ties to free myself, but was that truly caring?" In that moment, I knew what I had to do. The next morning, I called David Monroe, a veteran lawyer and Dad's old friend from his plumbing days. David had helped Dad with repair contracts and watched me start my business. When he heard my voice, he was surprised. "Emily, it's been a while. What's up?" I took a deep breath. "I need a favor, but it has to stay completely confidential." I outlined Lauren's situation, not hiding her mistakes but emphasizing her potential, needing just one chance to start over. I asked him to recommend her to a small law office in Newark. Not glamorous, but enough for a fresh start. David paused, then chuckled. "You're truly Thomas's daughter. He never abandoned anyone, even when they messed up." "All right, I'll arrange it. But are you sure you want her to know you're behind it? I shook my head, though he couldn't see. No, she has to believe she earned it herself. Don't let her know I asked. She needs to learn to stand on her own. David nodded. You're doing it right. Thomas would be proud. Weeks later, Aunt Margaret visited me in Denver, bringing a sly smile and a hot tea. Lauren got a job at a small law firm. It's tough, low pay, but she's working hard. She thinks it was a stroke of luck. I nodded, silent. Margaret placed a hand on my shoulder. You kept your promise to your father. But this time, you did it right. Not indulging her, but giving her a real chance. That's true care. Her words eased my heart. For years, I'd felt trapped between my promise and my self-respect. Now, for the first time, I found balance. On New Year's Eve, I stood on my company's balcony, watching snow blanket Denver's sky. The city lights cast a shimmering glow. I sipped wine, filled with a sense of freedom. Lauren was likely heading home from her small office, her shoes muddy after a long day. She was starting from scratch, struggling but truly on her own. I no longer had to carry her weight, and maybe this challenge was the gift I gave her. Not money, but the chance to grow. I looked up at the sky and whispered, Dad, I did it! I kept my promise and kept myself! In the cold wind and snow, my heart felt at peace. I share this not for praise, but to remind you, sometimes love doesn't mean unconditional sheltering. Love can mean stepping back, setting boundaries, and giving someone the chance to walk their own path. If you've ever had to choose between a promise to family and yourself, remember, you can do both by offering opportunity, not carrying the load. And maybe that's the greatest lesson of my life. Perhaps the biggest thing I've learned isn't how to run a multi-million-dollar company, but how to manage my own heart. I realized true love can't coexist with humiliation, and blind sacrifice only leads both parties astray. Dad told me to care for my sister, and I did. But only when I dared to set boundaries, to let her walk alone, did I truly honor that promise. Because caring doesn't mean carrying everything. It means giving the chance to grow. This story isn't just mine. I believe many of you have been looked down on for your job, forced to hide your truth to please others. Remember, your value isn't in titles or degrees, but in your character and effort. Never let anyone make you ashamed of honest work. If this story touched you, leave a comment and share your own experience. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Your support fuels me to share more honest, human stories.